running around the perimeter, which is where all the houses are, blowing whistles.
That sounds like a great time.
Eventually,
On that note,
yeah.
hello everyone.
I think hi. I think someone
Hi.
complained.
As always, we're back with our chaotic bullshit. Today we've got a different guest with us. Sophia, who are you? Where do we find you? All that kind of fun stuff.
Shut the fuck.
Hi, I am.
Sorry, not you.
I'm
I'm so
trying to
sorry.
speak Ellie's like, shut the fuck up. I'm like,
No, I've got my tablet to check the
I
screen.
was gonna
chat,
say
and
I heard the echo and I was
what
like,
was
hold
going
on.
and then realized that it was the thing. I'm so sorry.
you're fine.
Oh my God.
I'm
Uh,
just giving you hell.
we're off to a fantastic start.
So, hi, I'm Sophia. On all the socials and on the Vactor and such, you can find me as RockChickSophia, all like one word, all lowercase. I am the, for lack of better phrasing, the universe mummy of their Bar Fantasy and 5e game that we run on Thursdays called Song of Crystal and Shadow. I run a ship of Chaos Beings. We're now up to 6 plus 2 NPCs plus 2 minions. So I have a lot to manage. Yeah, and October 3rd, I'll be running Zombicide for Spooktober on the Vactor, which Rick is a part of.
And I did not turn into Scooby-Doo in any way, shape, or form. I don't know what you're talking
No,
about.
absolutely not. No, Rick was totally innocent in that.
Yeah, I did not pick the character with a dog, and then everyone said, "Hey, this is like Scooby-Doo." Oops.
To be fair, you shouldn't have named the dog Scooby-Doo or your character Shaggy. Like,
To be fair, the
on
character's
yourself.
name was Nico, and the dog didn't have a name. But Nico and Shaggy, that's the natural progression, you know.
You.
Anyway, Sophia, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Star Trek game, since Ellie and I have not played it, and Ellie is not as familiar with Star Trek in general. So,
Sure.
This is gonna be a pattern with our things. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I'll start right at the beginning with like the kind of core system it's based off of, which is the Modiphius 2D20 system. And it's exactly as it sounds for the most part. You only need 2D20s and a bunch of D6s to run the system. And
sounds
essentially, when you are rolling for a kind of skill check, you roll the 2D20 and you're trying to get underneath a combination value of an attribute and a value kind of thing. So an example in Star Trek would be if you're trying to shoot someone, which is my character's usual thing as the head of security for our ship. You would roll control because you're trying to keep control of your phaser, and security because you're trying to do a security-based action. The GM sets a kind of challenge level for it from like 1 to 5. Usually, some combat and things are usually preset at like 2 for if you're going to shoot someone, 1 if you're trying to give them the old Kirk chop. And yeah, you basically have to roll under the combination of those 2 values. Anything within that counts as a success, and your success is equal if you get equal to or more than the challenge rating. Hey, you managed to do it.
So how does that work with the 2D20s? How does that work with the 2D20s if your challenge is from like 1 to 5?
So, for example, I'll give you kind of my character. My character's control and security. If I'm trying to shoot someone, his control is 10, and his security is a 5. You put us together, you get 15. I roll my 2d20. I get, let's say, a 6 and an 8. That's 2 successes. If Cassie, our GM, sets the challenge rating at 2, because it's just a straight shot, I'm not dealing with cover or anything funny, then I succeed, and I manage to hit the guy.
Okay.
That's
So
and one is like menial, really easy task, or even challenge level 0 stuff, especially if you're asking questions in a field you already know a lot about. You just literally rolling to see how many questions you can ask. Whereas 5 is supposed to be literally impossible, or this is extremely difficult. You're going to need outside assistance or luck or all sorts of extraneous factors.
okay, that makes sense.
I am not sure I am following, but that is an
Okay.
Ellie issue. So, to clarify, so you've the challenge, not challenge rating, the target you would need to hit with that example of 15. You would then need to. So you then roll 2d20, and is it those combined will then make it, or what rolls on there has to be higher?
Yeah, it's the rolls on each individual d20 that are equal to or lower than that combined value
Okay, so it has
from
to be
your
lower than.
stats.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes. I was like, those don't add up to 15.
Yeah. Yeah, you roll individual d20s, and each one is its own individual check, essentially. And
so the more difficult, the lower the number.
no, in
So,
the
like,
in the Modiphius system, ones are critical successes and 20s are complications or crit fails. So
so it's kind of the opposite
yeah.
way round.
So if I roll double
okay.
ones, which has happened, those count as double successes. So a 1 counts as 2 successes towards trying to hit that target number my GM set of 1 to 5.
So it sounds like if you're a typically unlucky player, this is the system for you.
Yes.
If you
absolutely.
are a nat 1 roller, this is where you will thrive.
If you even if you roll low, because there are other little bits and pieces that can kind of increase what we would call in like 5e your crit threshold.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have through creation, your character creation, or through your experiences as a character and such, you have a value that links to the task you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Then your crit threshold becomes not 1, but it becomes the number of the kind of the Starfleet department you're trying to work through in a way.
Yeah.
So using the shooting someone example, my lovely Bajoran, and Bajorans, for those of you who don't know, are the very religious, also kind of rebellious folks from Deep Space Nine who rebelled against those space Nazis, the Cardassians. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
But you're not wrong.
Just to be clear to folks who are listening and watching, it's actually Star Trek Day, so I'm sort of already in Tennant's mindset a little bit. Like, welcome to the Bajoran Resistance. But so he has a focus in hand phasers because he's the chief of security. It makes sense for him to have a focus in using phasers on a ship or on a mission. So his security rating is also a 5 because, again, chief of security. It makes sense for the chief of security to be the expert. Not to mention the fact he used to work for Section 31, which is Starfleet Black Ops.
And they do so many good things. So many good things.
Oh, yes. Yes, he did so many good things as part of the Bajoran Resistance in Section 31 before he kind of got washed out from 31 because he was like, I'm tired of this. You're hurting my friends. Go away. Damn my GM. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So
that never happens on this
It
stream, not
sounds
even
like
once.
it's
yeah.
a little bit. Yeah, no, we're very focused.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's kind of in its own unique way, a bit more like Kids on Bikes, where you've
Yeah.
got that like threshold of. So you've obviously got meets it, beats it, but I know in Kids on Bikes, if you get high, like 5 or higher, it's like a crit success.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I was also going to
it's
say,
similar to that.
it reminds me, because it sounds like you're trying to roll under, if I understand correctly.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit like
So-
the Cthulhu, where you want to roll under your skill, but then also kind of goes with like Vampire the Masquerade or any of the Worlds of Darkness, where you have a certain number of successes, and that kind of determines how well you do.
Yeah. And
I thought you meant in the whole game, and I was like, that's a very strange strategy to have. Like, you're only allowed to succeed 3 times in a game. Good luck.
So in my example here, because he has a security rating of 5 and he's doing something that he has a focus in, when I roll my 2d20 or more, because there are ways to give yourself more dice just in case, I then go from needing a 1 to crit to anywhere between a 1 and a 5.
Oh, nice.
So a 5 or less is a critical hit for me when I'm using phases. And then I have other stuff, that all melds into it. And it's a really kind of intuitive system in that, you can have people assist for extra, they can give you extra die at the penalty of like, they have an increased complication threshold. So on the other end of things, if too many people assist you, then there's a greater chance something's going to go wrong. They can hit a 19 or a 20, for example, and that's a complication.
Too many cooks dynamic.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's basically there
I
is
was
a too
thinking
many
that.
cooks dynamic. The more people.
That is such a interesting sort of mechanism in a game. That's fascinating.
Yeah, because you don't normally see that, like say 5e, for
Normally,
example.
the more you pile on, it's fine.
Exactly.
Like, the better the result.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if I have like the first person's free. Okay, that's fine. You can have one person helping you. They don't have any things. The moment you add that second person, if they roll a 19 or a 20, then they botch, and then something goes wrong. And it could be, it's up to GM discretion. Maybe the phaser backfires. Maybe you blow out a power conduit on the ship when you're trying to replace it. Maybe you're in the middle of a diplomatic negotiation and you make a cultural faux pas.
Always a good time.
Up your nose.
Yeah.
You didn't realise you were picking your nose, and then you find out you're picking your nose, and you're not just picking your own nose, you're picking other people's noses. And
Which tends to go over super well in all cultures. So,
as my dad always said, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
Unless you're really good friends. But that's a different story.
I don't think many people are okay with that.
So, Sophia, since you're probably, of the 3 of us, the Star Trek expert, what species do we want to start off with for this character? Before we go to like name, because that definitely is a whole different thing.
It depends. Which era would you like to make this character from? So that sheet is for the next generation. So when we're making characters, the first thing we decide is, this is more obviously a GM thing, obviously, because they'll say, hey, this campaign is set in original series, which is James T. Kirk, or it's Enterprise, so that's Jonathan Archer, or Next Generation, which is pretty much everything else, with the exception of Discovery, because that's the good thing about this system. They're folding in the new stuff as it comes up. Like they just came out with a book for Lower Decks, which is the Star Trek.
I saw that
comedy series. It's a
I love
fantastic
Lower Decks.
book.
Yeah, I love Lower Decks. It brings in so many different things. It brings in all these different eras and just goofy shit.
Yeah, Lower Decks is fantastic. And they just released the book for that. So you can have Lower Decks.
Why don't we go? Maybe since we're kind of Chaos Gremlins, allegedly. Why don't we go for like a lower dex type character, but we'll keep it in sort of that like Deep Space Nine, Next Generation kind of era.
The kind of the DS9, TNG, Voyager kind of era. Yeah,
exactly.
So you got two choices. You can either pick one straight off the bat, and it depends on what the rule book has the basics, but some of the supplements have additional stuff. But for example, you can roll a d20 if you're feeling lucky, and go with it.
I mean, does anybody have a d20 handy? I could probably grab mine.
I do not.
Let's see.
I have all my.
Coming in here fully prepared, like a proper adult.
Okay,
I do that all the
so
time.
that was an 8.
Ooh,
So
okay.
on page 102 of the core rulebook, there's a lovely table that tells me everything I need to know about that, and that's a denobulin.
I am not familiar with that one.
Sorry, I'm
Neither
a
am
huge
I,
teenage
but
boy in the body of a girl.
so I will read the blurb for those who
Yes,
do not know what a
please.
denobulin is. Hailing from the planet Denobula, denobulins are a gregarious, inquisitive people who have been allies of humanity since the 2130s. Though the planet was not one of the founders of the Federation, they joined soon after. They're very sociable, with distinctive expressive features, who are used to living in close communal conditions and whose extended family groups are large and complex. They may have several spouses, each of whom may have several partners of their own, so polyamorous and
Very
polygamous as well.
amorous.
Yeah. Dozens of children between them. They are intellectually curious, perceptive, and interested in a wide range of philosophies. Though their scholarly nature, large families, and gregarious nature means that relatively few of them leave the homeworld.
Interesting. Yeah, I pulled up
Yeah.
the Memory Alpha, and I've definitely seen them. I just didn't know the name of the species or anything about it.
Yeah.
All I was thinking was, oh my god, being sociable, that sounds like my hell. So I am clearly not a denobulin. Sorry, I keep thinking I'm a big old Discworld nerd, and I've recently been listening to the books for the 8th or 9th time. That's the lower end of my estimation. And I just keep on thinking of Nobby Knobs. And when he's being posh, it's Denobs.
Oh my god.
Makes sense.
So yeah, that's all I can think about. That he's not very sociable and has a whole bunch of boils on his face. So
They
and he
do
also
have
has
some
a
interesting ridges
chitty.
kind of like
Yeah.
along the sides of their heads. Not quite the
To be
Klingon,
fair,
but
Nobby Knobs also has like a little chitty and a certificate to prove that he's human. So
makes sense.
I'm sure these people don't have that.
Who knows?
So sorry, it's Denobs, isn't it? No, it's not. It's I can't remember the names.
Denobulins.
Denobulins, that was it. Thank you.
I mean, you got most of
My
it.
brain was like Denobs and done.
That's all you need. So what would be the next step typically?
So the next step in character creation is that you choose the character's environment. So the one thing to note with denobulins is they get +1 to fitness in attributes,
Oh.
+1 to insight, and +1 to reason.
Interesting.
That's a wonderful race going on there. That sounds lovely.
And then
I wish I had +1 to my fitness.
But they also
have
have
-3.
if you look at the character sheet, I will pull it up, where it says traits, that kind of bottom field at the top. You just put denobulin, which is they have a robust immune system, but they have a vulnerability
Nice.
to radiation poisoning. They are really good at climbing and scuttling up sheer walls like some kind of terrestrial lizard. They don't need to sleep, but they must hibernate for several days each year, becoming disoriented if they're kept awake. So those traits can guide your values later on, or your values, and your traits.
Okay.
So, for example, you could say that one of your example values is, you're cranky if you kept awake too long, or something, and that can
Can't relate.
that can be that comes into play
Oh,
when you're trying to use your
Sleep apnea.
no.
Like, you only sleep a few days a year, but you've got sleep apnea.
sounds
Boy.
like hell as well.
But yeah, the second part is, and also it gives access to a couple of cultural specific talents, but we can go into those when talents are actually being picked. So the next thing is you choose your environment. So Starfleet officers, of course, come from all sorts of backgrounds. Some are born on ships, some are born on their home world, some are born on colonies away from the home world. So you can roll a d6. Again, you can choose one of this, and it boosts up. It boosts stuff. So I'm going to roll a d6.
Yeah.
And it's a 6. So our Denobulan was born and raised on another species world. That's going to be fun. I think just for ease, we could say they were raised on Earth, because that's where the headquarters, of course, of the United Federation of Planets is.
Right.
Because it's headquartered in, well, Starfleet is headquartered in San Francisco of the future. So yeah, why not? Especially because they are very Federation centric. That makes a lot of sense. So at this point, you then add, you do 3 more things. You add a value, and it says, so at this value, this step, the character gains a single value. This value should reflect the environment and culture the character is raised within. This is a good opportunity to consider how the character views their own culture and how they connect or don't connect to the philosophies and traditions of their people.
These are very in-depth characters
Mhm.
compared to some of the
But I mean, it
characters
makes
we've made.
sense because both
Yeah.
Star Trek and Star Wars are pretty big on the lore. I mean, there's extensive
I was just
background information.
thinking, like, I've made so many murder hobos in this character creation thing.
So
Because I
yeah.
have a deep-seated rage within.
Yeah.
And I've said that mildly sarcastically, but it is also very true.
I mean, I have a bit of a reputation for being a wrecking ball, so it's fine.
I've had friends say that if I was a 5e class, it would be paladin, and I always thought it would be barbarian, but apparently I'm more paladin than barbarian.
You could do both.
I'm multi-class.
Yeah. So
And I mean,
I would go on.
go ahead.
Go on, Rick.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so a good value for someone who lives on Earth, especially with someone who's like Starfleet, is probably something to do with exploration. So
Nosy.
it doesn't have to. You don't literally. With values, it's kind of like a catchphrase, like a starship is a home, it's a crew, it's a family, or I'm no stranger to violence. Basically, something you hold
Or you can't
dear.
pick your friends, but you can pick your nose.
Yeah, like that.
You can't pick your friends' nose. That's what they're gonna live by.
Does it give you like preset values that you can choose from, or is it just kind of like a fill-in?
No,
violence
this is
usually
stuff.
the answer.
You could use that, but it wouldn't make sense for a Denobulan, especially one raised on Earth. You could go, but given their family structure, here's a good one that would work. Serving Starfleet is a family tradition. That could work as a value.
And who knows? Maybe they were in like a San Francisco street gang.
I mean, they could be. They could easily have been. They could have gone off the rails a bit.
When I hear San Francisco, I think of Eddie Izzard. and their whole set where they were talking about and it's just San Francisco, not San Fran. No. Yeah, I listened to a lot of
I do love.
her when I was growing up.
Yeah, I do love their stand-up.
Yep. And so in the when you're done with that, Rick, the actual environment field up top would be what was it? What's the specific? Another species world.
Mm. Got it.
And then we can go on to the next step of the actual environment part because it gives you it gives you 2 more cool things to add to the sheet. The next thing is you get to choose or randomly roll another species from the first step. So just for ease of everything, I'm going to pick humans because again, Earth.
Yeah.
And you get to pick, what was it said?
Kind of the default there.
It makes sense because they're quite. You were saying they're quite close allies as.
Yes,
sort of
absolutely.
races, so.
Yeah. Then choose one of the attributes that species gains a bonus to. So humans get a bonus to anything. They get to choose.
Typical.
So,
I love how bland humans are in every fucking system.
Also, it's such
like, do you want to be basic?
Well, it's also such a racial xenophobic thing that humans can do anything. Like they can have attributes to anything, but these other species, they have very specific. Like that always bothers me a little bit.
I would say add another 1 to insight, honestly, because that makes sense for a Denobulant and humans are multifaceted.
Makes sense.
No, every human I've met is kind of the same.
Yeah. And then finally, you get to boost a discipline. So one, so Denobulans are English. They would make fine science and medical officers. So either science or medical should get a +1, I would say. Yeah, let's make them a
serving people.
I mean, science.
Yes, let's make them join Starfleet Medical.
Yeah. I was thinking either canteen. This one is wet. This one is wet. This one is wet. Did you dry these in a fucking rain?
Oh man, that's a classic.
I know, right? Sorry.
So would that be just a +1?
Just is on quotes.
Yeah. You can just put a 1 in, a 1 in there for now because it's going to add more through creation. And eventually we'll have everything will be filled out in the end.
Sophia, you cut out for me for a second. What was that?
So the next step. Oh, sorry. So yeah, eventually all of these boxes will be filled out because you need them all filled out to be able to combine your stats to know what you're rolling against. But right now we're basically assigning kind of bonuses to start with. So the next step after your environment is your actual upbringing. So like nature of your family and the surroundings as they grew up. And again, it's another D6.
Do love those D6s.
And this time I rolled a 2. Which is weird because it's business or trade. Okay. So you can put like.
They worked for Big Pharma. Family were big into Big Pharma.
Yeah, there you go.
Which explains the
he's got
medic
it.
officer.
We'll put. So
and that's why they went into medicine. They were like, I'm going to continue the family business, but slightly different. I'm going to use their products instead of make them.
The funny thing is, Star Trek, especially in social life medicine, but there is still capitalism in some parts of the galaxy. So you know what? That makes perfect sense. So in the upbringing field, Rick can put like discuss what that means.
I wonder whether TV would be elsewhere in the galaxy. That would be interesting. Just dominated most of human history. So, like, I'm imagining if we went out, it would go out with us.
Yeah.
That and the common cold, which we get to kill Martians with. So,
But you know, the interesting thing about Star Trek is like we're kind of the last, or not the last, but some of the later arrivals to the galactic scene. So, you know, there's all these other species, like the Vulcans, for example, who have been exploring the stars forever, you know, it feels like. So they've got a lot more experience, a lot more. Most of them probably knew that we were here, and we're like, yeah, we should probably watch out for these idiots.
Yeah.
Damn you, Zeph
we're
and
the
Conklin.
chavs of space.
I
Yeah.
haven't heard that word in so fucking long. Oh, chavs. Oh my god.
We've got the Foundation line and like the Burberry, or more in the cap, really, isn't it? And then the big
Yeah.
old fluffy puffer jackets.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna go on a detour. I'm sorry,
Yeah, go.
but Burberry did a fashion thing where it was kind of ick. They did this whole pop-up shop where it was like in a chippy and stuff, and it was like, but you stopped selling a certain type of clothing because it was synonymous with chavs, and now you're trying to take like chav culture, like to get profit, like. It seemed really ick. So they set up in like a chip shop, and it was meant to be like really working class, and it was like, this is ick. Like,
Yeah, that
I
sounds
know
like
so
capitalism,
many
though.
like people from school and stuff that were massive chavs. So I don't talk to them anymore. I
Me
was
too.
clearly a massive dork. Like,
Was
Yeah.
not anymore.
That makes two of us.
um, I'm gonna get foundation all over my lips, and take off my eyebrows and straighten my hair into oblivion.
So, what the upbringings give you, you get to choose with your attribute, depending on whether you accepted the lifestyle or rebelled
I
against
didn't
it.
rebel against
If the character
choice.
accepted this upbringing, yeah. If they accepted the upbringing, a cosmopolitan, ambitious lifestyle increases their daring by +1 and their presence by +2. But
Okay.
if they've rebelled against it, they stepped away from the family business to find their own identity, which increases their insight by 2 and their reason by 1.
I like that.
That
Let's
would
do
be
that.
like +4 on their
Yeah,
insight.
it sure would.
Well, so it doesn't make sense that like they're. I mean, this is my own personal. They wouldn't have chavs in San Francisco. Never mind.
I mean, they could
American
be
version of a
imported.
chav.
Yeah, they could be imported.
Well, it seems like TikTok is importing chav culture over there. So.
Yeah, yeah, it's something. And you said reason was the other one that gets a +2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
insight is
If they
+4, reason is
rebel,
+3. Like,
yeah.
also, another side note, I'm slightly irritated because I can find so many other name generators for Star Trek species, not denobulants though.
Good.
We're calling them Frank.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
They were raised on Earth,
Or
so
Frankie.
well,
Yeah.
Frankie.
Frank with a C or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh, like a French currency, a franc.
Yeah, like the French currency kind of Frank.
I mean, if we're talking
I
about
mean,
them
it's
being a
technically a
chav,
euro, but still.
yeah.
To be fair, well, I'm trying to think of some. It was wow, there was Luca. Mark. I can only think of the male chavs. Just shits. Was that? I think there was an Emily.
We're
Tanya.
doing so good. We're doing so good.
There was a Tanya. Yeah. Sorry. I was like, I'm gonna plummet the depths of my memory of all the things I've tried to forget.
Tried and failed.
Which is most of secondary school.
Yeah, I feel that. So the next part of the upbringing section is it increases. So the character's experiences with their family business allows them to increase any one of command, engineering, or science. So you get a +1 in any one of those. So we were going more of a science bent. So
well, we were
Or
going.
isn't, like,
We were going for the medical
would
officer.
magic and engineering go together?
they can do, yeah. You can
Not
you
as
can
much
have
in.
a-
It's
interest.
not. Is it going to be any like? I don't know what engineering goes towards. I keep thinking of machining in like oxygen not included, so it helps
So
I
operate
feel like
the machines.
I feel like science would be closer for like a Star Trek medical officer than engineering, just because they are a little bit separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
engineering is like ship engines, and
Oh, okay.
how
So
you know,
it's like the
basically,
proper, like, it's not the machines. It's like the how it all runs.
yeah,
Yeah.
they basically keep the ship running and not
It's the
exploding
hardware,
and
not
stuff.
the software.
Yes, yeah.
I would also like to add, Rick and I have barely distracted in this call. You have been doing so well, Sophia. It's
we've done
you
our best
are-
to try though.
Yeah, you are so on topic, and we're here like, but what about this section? And you're like, no.
No, it's fine. Truly, it's because there's kind of a lot to
get through. No,
not to
that's
get through per se, but there's stuff that I'm gonna explain just because so people have, so if people decide to go and try this out, whether they wherever they play, they kind of have an idea of how it all works before their first session.
Yeah.
So the focus, so the thing that kind of increases your crit threshold, should relate to the nature of their family's business. So if we said big pharma, it should be something to do with big pharma, like pharmacology or
marketing.
Marketing. Yes, that's
Marketing.
not market the drugs, the Ferengi or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, maybe their cousin was a Ferengi.
So for Ellie's sake, let's explain what a Ferengi is. A Ferengi is basically a capitalist on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They are one of the more problematic species because it gets into some very questionable things, but
yes,
it also is a very, like you said, Sophia, a good example of capitalism on steroids and the problems that come with that.
Yeah. Yeah, they unfortunately have some kind of unfortunate connotations, but
yeah, they were written unfortunately very Jewish coded. I don't think it was intentional, but
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still a fun species, but with that caveat.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that in one of the supplements you can make a Ferengi. They are like Starfleet's whole thing is we take anyone in. Like Worf was the first, Starfleet Klingon.
Right.
Nog from Deep Space Nine was the first Ferengi in Starfleet. That's Starfleet's whole thing is we include everyone within reason. There are a couple of races that are absolutely excluded, like Romulans, who are basically, as they sound, they are very much. They are like Roman senators, and they engage in very much a lot of politics and backstabbery.
There's honestly.
I thought you meant like Roman, as in like there was that one that was a bit of a nonce. um, and like had a whole island dedicated to fornication. And I was like, that's a bit extreme.
No,
different
Maybe
flavor of
that's a
Roman.
niche cut that my friends who studied classics has instilled in me when I think about the Romans.
I was definitely going more Julius Caesar kind of Roman.
Yeah, I realised that after you started talking about backstabbing, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the Roman leader that I'm thinking of was, but horrible person by the sounds of it.
I mean, honestly, most of them were. But you know, there are a lot of space Nazis in Star Trek.
Yeah. So
We're saying Rome.
the final part of the upbringing section is it gives us one talent. Now, talents are things that modify your roles or give you bonuses or let you do special things. So, for example, yes.
Sorry, I feel like I'm getting on your nerves, Sophia.
No, you're not. I am absolutely used to chaos and I embrace it. So, because we don't have the right stats right now, we will later on. If we look at the
involve with medicine.
So the funny thing is, and then I am now gonna actually, you've succeeded on getting me onto a tangent, but it is a Star Trek one. In the Next Generation, their chief medical officer, Beverly Crusher, was a tap dancer. I'm not kidding. There's a whole episode. There's a whole episode.
I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, it's the wedding episode where I think O'Brien and Keiko get married. I think.
Okay.
That she teaches Data, the ship's android, who's like one of a kind. And he's a brilliant character played by Brent Spiner.
I know one
fantastic.
Data. I think he's the only character I know.
Yeah.
And the bald captain, but I can't remember his
Picard.
name.
That's played by Patrick Stewart. Yeah.
I mean, he's British, so you have to know him legally.
Yes, you do. Just like Ian McKellen.
It's actually in part of our curriculum. They pull up the best known. There's Christopher Lee, R.I.P.
Yeah.
And Brian Blessed is also in there. You have to do an imitation of his voice, and you'll pass the class. Whether I failed it. My Brian Blessed impression is not that great.
But yeah, there is an episode where Crusher teaches Data how to tap dance. but she misunderstands that he wants to learn ballroom dancing, not tap.
So close. It's so close.
She still teaches him how to do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's my segue into tap dancing is that there's definitely still tap dancing in like the 2200s.
Okay,
so
but hear me out. If they're like a Denobule and Chav, wouldn't it be more like breakdancing?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but not very good breakdance.
Well, of course. I mean, that just goes with the territory.
So,
like, think of Paranorman, the chav in that.
I have not seen that actually.
Oh, it's great.
I've heard good things.
But the like chavvy character just does just imagine like a 13-year-old trying to be hard when they were raised middle class. Yeah.
I have met a lot of those people.
Yeah. So when you go to the talents list, it's basically it gives you some kind of in-game advantage in specific circumstances. It's like feats in a way.
Okay.
A good medical one is like field medicine, for example, which has no requirements. Anyone could be a field medic. When attempting a medicine task, so anything that involves the medicine discipline, you may ignore any increase in difficulty for working without proper tools or equipment. So you could literally start cobbling heated rocks together and shit, and you wouldn't take any penalties.
And hope for the best.
Yeah, because you just go kind of give the chutzpah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically
and off they go.
Yeah, basically just kind of put a band-aid on it, and it's like, yeah, you're fine. You're on a gaping wound. You're fine. Just go. So that's a good talent for a medical officer to have, I would say.
What
So
about a bad talent? Because we typically don't make characters who are good at things on this.
Oh shit.
Well,
Okay.
this is a unique situation. We're min-maxing them. We're min-maxing
Okay.
Frank
Okay.
We're more like
into insight and medicine and nothing else.
we're more like
They are
max
the most
minning. Like it's
insightful medicinal person you will ever meet.
I wouldn't even say it's min-maxing because that's like suggesting that they're good at things. We're like max minning. We're doing the opposite of what you should do.
So
We're optimizing in two key areas. They're basically neurodivergent.
I would say that one of the ones that I don't like taking, and it's just because of what it does, is the bold talent, and it's not what you think.
Okay.
So you choose a single discipline when you select this talent. When you attempt a task with this discipline and you buy one or more d20s by adding to threat, which I'll explain in a second, you may re-roll that a single d20, and you may buy this multiple times for the different disciplines, but you may not stack it with cautious.
So it's kind of like reckless attack if you're a barbarian.
Basically, so what threat is your GM's numerical pool of chaos. So, for example, if my GM if for all of the virtual table we have, so to speak, she has, I believe, is 10. So she could just blow 10 threat, summon a Borg cube, and shoot us out of space if she so wanted. Obviously, the trick to being a good GM in this game is not to suddenly just summon a Borg cube or whatever, or some big 12 threat that will just wipe your players. It's to, but you know, it's other things like making a named character be really good at shooting. You know, suddenly have a really just like dead eye shot against one of your characters, and you can spend like a couple of threat for an extra dice or something like that. So there's lots of things you can spend threat on. So when you use, so one of the ways of getting extra dice to try and increase your odds of succeeding at a task, especially if it's like to basically barter, trading potential fucky wucky down the line.
I mean, that I like it.
I don't know
I'm
if
here
my
for it.
impulse control would be good with that.
So like you can choose anyone that could be medicine, science, any of there's no requirement, but essentially anytime you pick you do like a medicine task, for example, you can say, you know what, I'm gonna be bold about this, and I'm gonna buy an extra d20, and when you do that and you buy it using threat, that whole battle of the GM thing, it lets you re-roll that d20 if
So
it
after
goes
you
tits up.
see,
Yes.
yeah. So you can buy after. It's not like
Yeah.
you
Right.
have to hedge your bets and wait.
Yeah,
for-
exactly. You can roll your first 2d20 and see what happens, and then start making decisions on, do I want to go to the GM and give a threat? Do I want to spend momentum, which is essentially stored up extra successes? So on a test, if it's like a difficulty 1 test and I roll 2 successes, I have 1 bonus.
Okay.
So I have options for that. I can either increase like my success, whatever I'm trying to do, and like our GM will say, well, if you give me that success, this is what happens. Or you can bank it as momentum, which has its own set of like powers essentially, all and retry for like 2 momentum, stuff like that, and you can bank up to 6. So it's your version of threat essentially. You got players have a version of threat, and DMs have actual threat.
So if you were
So-
playing a betrayer bastard, I don't know whether that would happen in the Federation, but you could go bold and really balk your party.
You could, but it is collaborative, and honestly,
Oh yeah, no, I mean
So-
like it'd be a right arsehole to
like
do it.
I know in our party, if we want to spend momentum or if we want to buy threats, usually we run it by the other members first. My group are really good about that. We definitely have at least one
Minimal
character who
dickhead
has a
energy in
bold.
that one.
Yeah, we have a Chaos Gremlin player who's a wonderful guy. He's absolutely fantastic because he only does it at the right time. He only uses his bold command, I think it is, at the right time. It's like, okay, this makes story sense, and I don't mind giving Cassie a couple extra threat to mess with us. Do it.
Mhm.
You know, technically
It's
you
nice when
could.
it's like properly narrative instead
Yeah.
of someone being
Yeah.
like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna spend this on a really fucking easy thing.
Yeah, and you could definitely get pushed back around the table if you try to be a dick like that. But
Mhm.
that being said, when you do it well, people, it tends to be fun. And honestly, one of my favorite things during our game is just watching that threat counter decrease, and I'm like, oh shit, he's up to something. And I saw it decrease once, and it was actually because my Section 31 character's mnemonic programming kicked in, and he turned traitor.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, see, that's a potential use for threat. Makes turning my character into a murder hobo who was also already a crack shot and everything. So great.
I'm
But
sure everybody loves
yeah.
It's always funny, not funny, fun to turn against your party when you're like, please miss, please miss, please miss.
Yeah. So yeah, that's I believe all of the upbringing section. Yeah. So bold. So yeah, I could put like bold medicine and under talents, Rick, and
Yep.
then that's that section done. And then it's on
Excellent.
to
Woo!
like I think the next one is what happened while you were at Starfleet Academy. Because
I'm
whilst
sure
you
all kinds
can,
of lovely things.
oh yeah, the Kobayashi Maru, which is the no win test for Ellie's sake, is basically they put you into a no win situation to see how you react and whether you decide you have to sacrifice someone or sacrifice yourself or
No win unless you cheat.
yeah, Kirk cheated. Nog for outwitted it with Ferengi bravado, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bullshit.
Well, yes.
That too. Bravado is just a polite way of saying bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like saying someone's a character when they're a raging.
Other
Got
singer.
myself on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you next Tuesday.
So, yeah, you can play enlisted rank of characters. You could totally be like lower decks, uncommissioned folks, but that you could totally do that. Oh yeah, that's right. Our focus was kind of lower decks things, so you could be maybe you didn't go to the academy. Maybe you just signed up with Starfleet and you're like Arnold Rimmer from Red Dwarf. You're unclogging the replicators when they get stuck up with chicken soup.
Yes. Yes, Rimmer.
Yeah,
And then we'll make the cat.
yeah.
So I quite literally have one of the I think I have a few of the books, but I do have the
Yes. But for I guess
British
for
industrial space exploration. Red Dwarf is for you. It's not that fancy, lovely, shiny new shit. It's nuts and bolts and a cat with 2 hearts.
So I have the Red Dwarf RPG as a PDF. I need to actually look at that, and it's complex. But I think one of these days, when I can wrap my head around it, I would run a game. But
Yeah, and Ellie,
So-
I love your adult panic behind you. You know, that would be another fun to
Yeah.
play as a TTRPG would be the Hitchhikers.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah,
that
I've
exists,
also
but
got all the Hitchhikers books here.
excellent.
In case you guys are curious as to whether I like fantasy or not. And that section behind Don't Panic is all Terry Pratchett. So,
for Starfleet Academy, typically you would roll a d6, and it would be like, okay, are you going? So in Starfleet, even though you have the 6 disciplines, each one is divided into like 3 branches. So you have command, ops, and sciences. So sciences would be science and medical. You know, it would be everything scientific. Command would literally be kind of starship captains and such. Operations is security, engineering. Science it also does include like the ship's counselor and such as well, because
Makes sense. Social science, yeah.
yes. So command track is basically for those who are going the diplomatic route. They want to command their own starship or their own starbase or something like that. Operations is all hands-on stuff, and sciences is all theoretical. It's medical. It's the weird and wonderful of Star Trek. You know, what happens if we mess with this warp field? Yeah, you tend to break a hole in the time-space continuum, and that's how you get the mirror universes and
Yeah.
shite.
It's fine.
all the fun stuff.
Yeah.
You're meant to break it all, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm
So-
sure, if you break enough stuff, you'll meet Q eventually.
Pretty sure that at least one of the supplements or one of the books somewhere has stats. Not that you really need stats for Q.
Because the Q continuum is just gonna fuck you.
Yes, pretty much.
It's like God, but worse.
But one of the fun things is, and again, Modiphius are good about this, is they have STL files for our 3D printing friends of. Because of course, if you're playing this around a physical table, you need miniatures and stuff. Well, they have miniatures and they have STLs for you. And yes, they have STLs of like all the major characters across the series, including Q, in his full like in his like full atomic
robes and
war
everything.
judge robe
Yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. You still have to paint it, but hey, guess what? You can go and look at a
that's the
picture.
most fun part. I'm
Yeah.
biased. I'm an artist.
Yeah.
But that's the most
Oh,
fun
no.
part.
That was my favourite part when I had miniatures, was painting.
Yep.
If I ever got around to it.
Yeah, so the neon Q.
that's the kicker there.
Yeah. So Frank is definitely going down the sciences track because Starfleet Medical. So I don't have to roll that. Because we kind of already
Would that be under
decided
assignment?
that.
Yes, that would be kind of science department or Starfleet. You could put like Starfleet Medical. Yeah. And then that gives us 5. This is the big one. This gives us 5 different things we have to add to the sheet. The first is another value. So this should reflect some aspect of the character's beliefs that developed during their time at the academy. So if Frank was studying Starfleet Medical, working with Starfleet Medical at the academy, I will leave you two actually for a change to come up with kind of a better value than I could probably think of.
I mean,
Again,
if we're going for like the marketing and big pharma aspect, that's tough. I feel like it would be something along the lines of like, don't do anything for free. It wouldn't, obviously Starfleet doesn't really worry about money, but I'm sure that like favors.
I have a lot do work get
Yeah.
You cut out again.
because one of the key things so my experience with LARPing has taught me that people take medical characters for granted, and they expect us to do shit for free.
Sounds
Well,
like D&D as well.
Yes.
Like, hey,
strangely
Claire,
enough.
come heal me. No, busy.
Yeah. So it's basically do work, get paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's our motto. It's like, hey, look, I will absolutely heal you, but you need to give me some material or some creds.
I'm here for it. That's on the character sheet.
Or
Man.
in
Do work, get paid.
track platinum. Yeah. Attributes. The character gains 3 more points, which may be split between the act ones to choose which ones it goes into. There's no restriction. So
I mean, I feel like we should, bump up the fitness at least one more.
Yep.
I don't know, Ellie, what do you think? I think daring needs something. I think daring needs at least 1 or 2 points.
Yeah.
We do have a bold chap. What do we think? 1 or 2?
For daring, let's do 1.
I think with bold,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then maybe we'll do another 1 to reason, and that makes our insight and reason both 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a very reasonable person, which is completely unlike, certainly for Rick and I. Not sure about Sophia.
I feel like they're like bordering on Vulcan levels of logic and all that, despite being a Denobulan raised by humans, but also very self-serving. Like they can
Made them interesting.
Yeah, they can reason you into paying them basically for what they're doing.
As long as they know they're getting paid.
Exactly.
They'll believe whatever you say.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you let them die.
Yeah. So the next part is a discipline. So the player must select either science or medicine as the character's major, because that makes sense.
Right.
That discipline gets a +2.
Okay.
And then the player selects 2 other disciplines, any 2 other disciplines, which get +1s.
I mean, obviously the medicine I think needs to be our +2.
Yep.
I'd say probably another +1 to science, since we've already got a +1 in it.
Yep.
And then Ellie, what do you think? So we've got command, con, engineering, and security.
I think medics need a level of commanding. You need a commanding presence to tell people to shut the fuck up.
Especially when you're trying to get paid in the process.
And to stay the fuck up. Have you spoken to nurses? They have
That's fair. That's
sort
fair.
of will of steel. So yeah, medical professionals, certainly the ones that I am dealing with on a daily basis, definitely have a commanding presence. There are no meek medical professionals, or at least not for long.
Right.
The public will beat the meek out of them.
Ha! Yeah.
Accurate.
And then the next step of Starfleet Academy is foci. you get to choose 3 focuses,
Oh.
one of which should relate to science and medicine. So, examples for science focuses are anthropology, astrophysics, botany, computers, cybernetics, emergency medicine,
Oh, emergency
genetics.
medicine for sure.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what my brain told me immediately after anthropology, which was Scientology. No, no, that's not a science.
I also think probably cybernetics.
Yeah.
One more. Sophia, what do you think?
I would say xenobiology because you're dealing with a lot of alien folks when you're out in space. So sometimes you ain't gonna know how to treat them, and you're gonna have to do your best guess. So being a xenobiologist probably gives you the best chance.
Yeah.
Kind of winging it.
What are these weird organs I'm looking at?
Yes. I'm thinking of Saru from Discovery, who's a very unique alien in the Star Trek universe. I mean, yes, there's a whole race, but the first time we've met Saru's race, and it's like, how do medical on Saru if Saru hurt?
Very carefully, mostly.
Yeah, very carefully. And then finally,
the answer to that is obviously they don't get hurt.
Well, there's that, and that's the job of a good security officer. Seriously, there's a reason why I have command and security so high on my character, and also I have talents like Deadeye Marksman. Oh, I'm going to aim with my phaser. That means I get to re-roll all the dice if I don't, all my test dice, my d20s, if I don't like what happens. Because aiming usually lets you. No. Sorry, I tell a lie. Aiming with a regular hand phaser lets you re-roll 1 because of the attributes of the phaser. Because just like 5e, weapons have attributes. But Deadeye Marksman reduces my difficulty from like a 2 to a 1, so it's even easier to hit the target I'm shooting at as long as I'm aiming.
So you can't like gangster it and put it to the.
I mean,
it's still a type of aiming.
I mean, I wouldn't say trick shots are really aiming.
I don't know. I've seen some. Yeah, I mean, talking about like physical
to be
real
fair,
guns.
I'm dyspraxic, so like trick shots won't work for me. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, another dyspraxic.
Yeah, they don't work for me, but they work for Tennant. Trust me.
I would high five, but we'd miss.
Yeah, exactly. Trick shots work for my lovely chief of security. Except that one time he shot the captain in the ass.
But see, that's the nice thing about TTRPGs is it lets us do things like, you know, get a full 8 hours of sleep, or recover from massive wounds, or, you know, travel in spaceships, things that we
and shoot captains in the ass.
Friends.
Yeah. I mean, you could do that in
on.
real life, but I wouldn't recommend shooting people in the ass.
More of collecting. Oh, you meant shooting your friends in the ass, not collecting friends. Never mind.
Yeah, we don't believe in friendship here.
Oh, trust me.
It's a bit harder over here to shoot someone in the ass. It would be with like a water pistol or like a rubber band gun.
Right.
So the final part of Starfleet Academy is you gain a single talent from the list of talents on 135. So there's other stuff like collaboration, constantly watching, dauntless, personal effect, studious.
My brain was saying that it was constipation, not collaboration.
So close. I don't know if it's a talent
so
though.
Sorry.
Don't know if that's
I
a talent.
wanted to explain why I started giggling. That's a talent of theirs. Constipation at will.
So actually, I tell you what, here's a good one because, and this is what based on what Ellie was saying. Doctor's orders.
Okay.
Yes.
When you attempt a task to coordinate others or coerce someone into taking or refraining from a specific course of action, you may use your medicine instead of your command as your
Perfect.
yeah. And I think we have the right medicine level to do that now. So we can basically, instead of commanding them, we can go the nurse route and say, yeah, if you do that, you're going to get this. Like just telling James T. Kirk, hey, you shouldn't go and sleep with those aliens. You're going to catch something.
Right, like stop putting your dick in everything.
Yes.
I mean, that's a much politer way than the way that nurses I know would put that, which is, we're going to restrain you in your bed.
I mean, unless that's what
and
they're
make sure no one else comes into the bed with you.
into.
Literally and figuratively.
I can just imagine McCoy telling Kirk, and I know we're doing like next generation era characters, but I mean honestly it would be the same thing as the Doctor, Dr. Crusher telling Commander Riker actually in Next Generation not to put his dick in everything because he was basically the same.
Yeah,
for a while
that's
there.
pretty accurate.
So it's like I can imagine like that there are plenty of examples in Starfleet history of doctors telling their captains or first officers not to sleep with aliens on a diplomatic mission. Just
I
yet.
mean, honestly, that's just questionable diplomacy sometimes.
Yeah. Especially when you
shit on your doorstep.
Okay. Oh, there's actually a list of Denobulan names.
Oh,
in the book, in the core book. Frank is not one of them, but hey, who cares? Okay.
Frank is now one of them.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, Frankie with a CK is an official Denobulan name now.
Yeah.
We're making it canon.
Okay. We've made it on to step 5 out of step 7. We're getting there. So
over halfway.
Yes. We're getting there. Career. At this point, you as the player, have to choose basically whether your character is a young, fresh out of the academy graduate, an experienced officer, so they've been out for a few years, or a veteran like Picard, like captain grade, older, very highly regarded kind of.
Say middle.
Yeah, so the middle is experienced.
That was it. Frank will be in the middle.
Yeah. And that lets you pick any one value based on like your character's behavior. Basically, it's chosen freely. There's no kind of restrictions or implications that it has to be linked to like science or something. And you get to choose a talent, which you can pick any talent as long as you qualify for it.
Okay.
So value is again something related to Frank's upbringing, the academy, whatever. You can go hog wild with this one. So,
Ellie, go for it.
Sorry, I spaced out because my finger hurts. So they can. I'm going to be very honest. I've got a cuticle that's being a pain in the butt, and I was thinking, don't pick at it because I saw myself pick at it on the screen. But we can pick to make sure I was listening in the back of my brain. We can pick any kind of attribute or anything that goes, like, it could be anything because we are in
any
the middle.
value.
It doesn't need to be tied into it.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be tied to like upbringing or department or anything like that. Basically, it could be something personal to Frank. It could be something because Frank's a Denobulan. It could be being raised on Earth. It could be Frank just doesn't like certain kinds of people. I'm pretty sure one of our characters our captain hates Orions, the green-skinned folks, because they're slave traders. So she hates Orions.
Yeah.
What about
that's one of her values?
Put your dick in it.
I mean, that is a valid value. It did say it's chosen freely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Don't put your genitalia in it.
There you go.
Okay, so I'm gonna for folks listening and watching, I'm gonna give a really good example of where that would be useful based on what I just said. So, values are used when we spend determination. Determination is essentially your luck point for the session. Now, if you play your character, if you role play your character according to your values, your GM can give you extra determination. It's like inspiration's better kind of analog for it. There's fun things you can do with determination, but you must link it to a value. So, for example, if you are trying to resist being coerced, like seduced, that's a better word, being seduced by an enemy, and you're not having a good time with it with the role because they're really strong, they're a telepath or some such, and they've really got you banged to rights. You can say, well,
Sorry.
I don't put my genitalia in it. I don't like to do that. So here I'm going to spend this point of determination and get 2 automatic successes. Oh look, I just passed the test despite the fact I failed it with actual dice rolling. So yeah, that's how determination works. But also, you can challenge those values, or the GM can challenge that value and be like, so I'm going to put you into a situation where you might feel like you want to go and sleep with that person. Yep. I tell you what, I will give you a free determination if you ignore that value and cross it out. And if you cross it out, you can no longer use it as a reason to spend determination. So the GM can barter with you as well and say, okay, I see you have that value. Like one of Tenon's is the mission must come first, or something along those lines. Well, if basically Cassie can say to me, hey, there's this other thing that's going on, and it's also really important, but it's secondary to the mission. It would go against your value, but I'll give you determination if you go and do this thing.
So basically, if like a Betazoid, were to try and seduce Frankie here, then that could be something the GM would use to counteract that value.
Yes, absolutely.
Betazoids are they can sense emotions and things like that.
Yeah. And conversely, if you're having trouble resisting said Betazoid, you could burn that point of determination for the session. And use that and just straight up use the value. It doesn't get deleted, it doesn't get crossed out. You keep that value because you've held to it, and use those, get like 2 automatic successes.
Refreshed each session,
yes.
Or if you cross through it, you're done.
If you cross through the value, you have to come up with a new one.
Okay.
At the end of the session,
that slot of the value is gone.
You
could go from I will never put my genitalia in anything
to sometimes
I will put my genitalia in everything.
Bingo. Yeah.
There's probably a middle step in there somewhere, but
Yeah.
I'll put it in some things.
No, not for Frank. Well, I've had a religious awakening.
And okay, so we get another talent from any of the talents. Thinking.
Sock puppets.
If only. Okay, one of my favorite ones from one of my fellow players. He's the operations chief on our ship, which I haven't mentioned what our ship name is. It's the Ushan Tor, which is it's an alien language, and it means, I can't remember which one it is, and I'm sure if the others were here they'd tell me, but it basically means prison shank.
Oh.
Amazing.
Basically, we are the officers of the USS Prison Shank.
Like you do.
Yeah. But the talent in question is called testing a theory. When you attempt a task using science, in this case, you can also engineering, but science mainly. You may roll one additional d20 as long as you already succeeded in a previous task covering the same discipline or like scientific field earlier in the game.
Okay.
So basically, if you succeed in like a xenobiology role because you're trying to save the life of some diplomat or something, and you have to do more to deal with that same sort of branch of xenobiology, you instead of rolling 2, you start rolling 3 d20
Okay.
for the rest of the game. So
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
yeah.
Been playing too much Baldur's Gate. I'm like, how would I evil run this?
Well, I think that's when you join Section 31 and
Yeah, go join Starfleet Black Ops. Well, technically they're not Starfleet, but it's very technical, very nuanced.
Also depends on which era you're in and all that kind of fun stuff.
Like Discovery is absolutely, they are absolutely tied to Starfleet. Probably less so in DS9.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I personally would go with that one just on the grounds of it makes sense for a Denobulan as well, because if they're going to do the same thing over and over, just because
Right.
that's how they work, that they would get some kind of benefit from doing it.
Well, and I know, Sophia, you mentioned that we still got a couple more steps, but I know you also have your game today, and that we also started a little bit late. What would you say are like the like must hit steps for the rest of this character?
The next steps, the only two, and it's basically pick something that happened in your early career, and you can roll a d20 with that.
Okay.
So, and it's usually something. It can be anything. You could think,
His
you know.
friend died at their hands.
Actually, yes, death of a friend. Roll, you get a 2 on a d20. Yep. But
Okay.
I rolled a 13.
They're so determined to heal as many people as they can.
I rolled a 13 on this, which would be called out as superior, so I basically challenged the superior officer. As a medical person, that could also be even like relieving on command. And
where does that go on your character sheet?
Yeah, that would go. That wouldn't necessarily go on the sheet.
Okay, more like a background thing for the GM.
Yeah, it's a background thing, but the things you get from it, like the attribute, the discipline, the focus, all relating to that, would obviously go on the sheet.
Sure.
And then the final two things the final thing is just the finishing touches, which is essentially add 7 to all of your attributes, and then add 1 to all of your disciplines, and those are your final stats.
Oh, 7 to all of them, or like 7 that you distribute?
No, to all of them. That's the base.
Wow. Okay.
That's the part I forgot at the start, was you start with 7 in each discipline, so and then you add the pluses. But
okay, interesting.
We're fixing that now.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do the math right now because math.
But yeah, but then you add 1 final value. Make sure that your attributes are not too high; they can't go above 12s. And you get to increase them 1 final time, and you get to increase your disciplines 1 final time. And then
our insight and reason would both go. Or no, they wouldn't. Yeah, math. Math is not my thing. That's why I'm.
It's all good. Honestly, again, in some cases, it's also kind of allowable to flake it a little bit.
Yeah.
And then really, you just make sure that the math is okay. You set your HP at your fitness plus your security. We call it stress in this game. You gain damage equal to your security whenever you use a phaser or a hand weapon, and you also with the rest of your group at that point, because it becomes less of an individual thing, and now you go into the more group kind of thing of who's the captain, who's the first officer, who's in what position, and what ranks you're going to have. The highest you can go up is commander, with one person obviously being captain, because Starfleet.
Right.
And then you get your starting equipment, like a medical officer will get a medical tricorder for free, your uniform, you get a sidearm, and you'll be a senior officer, because if you're chief of medicine on the ship, you get a Type 2 phaser, which is the big handy one, not the little kind of square one you can hide in your pocket. And yeah, and that's actually it. You're ready to go on your ship. I mean, the next thing would be as a party would be designing your ship if your GM doesn't do it for you. But that's a whole
Yeah.
that's a whole
I never
nother.
got time for that one.
I ain't got time for ship creation.
Yeah, that would be a totally different stream.
Yeah, that would be fun. But yeah, we the prison shank, at least the old version of it, was basically a Defiant class. So it was heavily armed. And our adventure was take us to a place called the Shackleton Expanse, which was unexplored space with like gravitic anomalies and stuff. So we were outfitted to be able to deal with that stuff and boldly go
Yeah,
and
like you
meet
do.
all kinds of fun new races that our GM came up with.
Good stuff.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sophia, thank you for coming and joining and talking about this awesome game. Maybe one day we'll actually get to play it.
I
'Cause,
would be more than happy to maybe come up with a Lower Decks one shot at some point. Truly,
that would be fantastic. I would love that.
Yeah, because they have the character packs as well. I can just give you pre-gens of like the head of the cast and such, and
yeah. I mean, we've got Frankie now, so
And Frankie, we got Frankie too.
Well, Sophia, anything you want to plug before we head out?
Apart from coming and check me out on Thursday nights, 8:30 Eastern in the evening, where we run our Final Fantasy game. We're actually getting close to the end of season 1. Chaos Beans have just beaten Ifrit, but they are very quickly heading towards bad things because they've messed with the wrong primal forces.
Not them.
And
That's...
where and what channel would that be on?
That would be over on the Vactor, which is twitch.tv/the Vactor. And yeah, you can come watch us on Thursday nights, assuming we're running, because we are a bunch of neurodivergent, disabled. We are everything under the sun. Our little group of Chaos Beings is everything under the sun. We are represented by everything and everyone, pretty much.
Little group of misfits.
Yes, but they're my misfits, and I love them. Even then they make me facepalm, and Rick will tell you that they have made me facepalm on camera many a time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's what they're there for, though.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, and Sophia, as you mentioned before, our friends over at the Vactair, speaking of, are doing the Spooktober series of one-shots, also raising money for Extra Life. I don't think that I have the link programmed for that yet. I need to. But come check out those streams. I'm starting it off on October 1st, playing Babies and Broadswords. Well, I'm running Babies and Broadswords. I don't remember who else in that one, to be honest, because I'm in like all but I think 2 or 3 of the games.
Well, yeah.
I set out to be in like 3 or 4, and then there were a couple that they were like, "Hey, you doing anything that night?" Like, I guess I am now. And then it just ended up being that way. I mean, I'm not mad about it, but it was not planned that way.
Yeah.
Ellie, anything you wanna plug?
I'm Ellie. I'm Pleasure Nerd everywhere. I'm an artist that focuses. Stop it. I'm an artist that focuses on traditional art, predominantly marker art, and portraits. So I will be doing Inktober, which is where it's a traditional inked illustration according to a bunch of prompts. We will see how many I get through. Can't guarantee anything because my neurodivergent butt doesn't like staying consistent. I love starting projects, hate finishing them.
That sounds very familiar
and
to me.
this is actually an issue in my real life job at the moment. So, but you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on TikTok, you can find me on Threads. I am also on X, but I don't really use it as much. So if you see a pleasure nerd, it me. So yeah, you can find me everywhere as pleasure nerd.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, as always, I'm Rick. I'm the game master for Hymn of the Gods. And I started to say and then completely forgot, in addition to my game, Sophia, as you mentioned earlier, you're running your game on the 3rd of October.
Yep.
A whole bunch. I mean, check out the Vectairs Instagram or really any other social media. The schedule is basically everywhere, and it's pretty close to every day that they're doing something. So come check us out. But anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thanks again, Sophia, for teaching us about the Star Trek TTRPG.
Thank you for having me.